Well, alrighty, my friends out there, thanks for joining me. This is your host, ID Chester. In the past, and just recently, as a matter of fact, some people have always wondered how I'm able to play the different sports games on my computer, and uh, you know, how is it I set it up and do all the fancy things that I do, and kind of tips and tricks, and asking me questions about it and everything. So I thought instead of like trying to show people or text people or message people and telling them what I do and how I do it, probably be easier for me just to create a nice video that kind of goes over things for you guys out there. So the basic premise here is you have some kind of file or you have some kind of images that you're going to be using to play your sports games, whether that's uh, inside pitch or payoff pitch, or if you downloaded the new fall classic baseball and you wanted to try that game out like we were doing last night with our 2016 World Series. How do I set that all up and how do I get it all running and everything? So I'm going to go over that with you guys kind of step by step. So the first thing is you want to have a good piece of software where you can take screenshots because you're going to be taking a lot of screenshots, right? And you want to make it as quick and as painless as you can. So I'm going to recommend what I use, and that is called Lightshot. If you go to Google and do a search for screenshot software Lightshot, you should get to it. But it's http colon or https colon slash slash app dot prntscr.com. And it should take you to the website. You can download it for Windows or download it for Mac. It is free to use. And I really like it because it does everything I need it to do and it's quick and easy. That's what I'm looking for. If you are going to be doing a lot of this, you want something that's quick and easy. On your keyboard, you should find a key up in the top right hand corner that says PRTSCN, which stands for print screen. That's basically what we want to do. If you don't have this light slot installed, when you hit print screen, it's just going to take a picture of your whole desktop. Well, what Lightshot does is when I hit print screen, it turns my whole desktop gray, as you can probably see here, and it's asking me to select an area. So if I want to select an area, I just do that, boom, and that will be the part that will be my image. I can hit the X button to close out of it, and I can then click it again. If I want my whole computer screen, I can access my whole computer screen if I wanted to. But you can take little PC parts, and that's basically what we want to do, right? We want to take the PC parts that we find. If we look at our download file that we have here for Fall Classic Baseball, I want to make basically player cards for my computer. So I just want to print screen, and I want to take an image. Another thing about Lightshot that I like is you can actually kind of fine tune it if you want to, really kind of, oh, okay, I just do it as best as I can, but I don't really worry about fine tuning it that much. All right. And then I'm going to hit the save button. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. So you're going to be taking a lot of screenshots. So let's talk about how I set things up. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to we'll go step by step. Sure, what's not? All right, so I'm going to create a folder. This can be on your desktop. It can be, in your C drive or D drive or wherever. And we're just going to say Chicago 2016 so it doesn't interfere with my actual Chicago over there. And I'm going to go inside that folder. I'm going to create two other folders. I'm going to access one called lineup. You can call it whatever you want. I just call it lineup because it's easier for me. And the other one I'm going to call is pictures. All right. All right. So there you go. So you got a folder for lineup. You got a folder for pictures. Now what do we have to do? Well, we're going to use our PDF or whatever we had got, whatever we had bought from the company out there. And instead of taking the files to Kinko's or printing them yourself, you can just create your own cards electronically for yourself to use. And so what I would do at this point is I would just, You know, if I'm going to get the Cleveland, I would just start, and I'm going to hit my print screen button, and I'm just going to start taking images, right? So when I go to save, another thing about LightShot is it'll actually remember where this button, wherever this box is located. What I normally do is move the box down out of the way so I can actually see all the players' names. I can make sure I'm spelling them correctly. You can just leave it in the middle of your screen if you wanted to, whatever. Now I just need to tell it where I'm going to go. So we're going to look for, actually, let's not save Cleveland into the Chicago. That would kind of be kind of stupid, wouldn't it? So we are going to look for, where is the file? I thought I had the file open. Yeah, here it is. So we're going to go to the, here's the download that you can get for free from Fall Classic Baseball. It's a trial version, just comes with the 2016 Cleveland and 2016 Chicago, so you can replay the World Series from 2016. It does come with all the rules and the charts and everything you need, right? So we're going to go to Chicago, right? So we're going to open that file. Now, here's another important thing that I always will tell you. I've been doing this a long time, okay, guys? So I know what I'm talking about. I probably made in the last 5 years, maybe 5 or 6 thousand screenshots of things. If you go back through my YouTube, you'll see that I've played many different games on the computer by having my own electronic baseball cards. All right, so first thing is you always want to try and get the image the same size when you are dealing with uh, your um, your files. So you can see here, uh, Adobe Acrobat Reader is open this up at 97.6. So if I save some files at 97.6 and then later on I save another file at 150%, you're going to see there's going to be a big difference between these. So you always want to choose um, something that you think is good. I either use 100 or I use 125%. I think based upon the quality and the image you're working with, I look at both of them and really determine, and I say, yep, 100% is going to work fine for this. So at this point, what I'm going to do is just hit my print screen. Again, that's in the top right-hand corner of your keyboard. And I'm just going to start saving images. So again, I highlight the area. You could fine tune it if you want. For me, now, as long as I got, a good border around the image, maybe just, an eighth of an inch or whatever, and I can see all the information clearly. That's good enough for me. I don't need it to be exactly, wait, I got to get right on the bottom of the gray, and I've got to be right at the top. No. I mean, that's going to take you forever. Of course, you can do whatever you want because it's your time. Then I'm going to hit the save button. Excuse me. So I'm going to go to my desktop. We're going to find our Chicago 2016. And these are going to be all of my players, right? All of my players. So I'm just going to start saving GUELGRO, right? There's boom. Just hit enter, hit print screen, make sure my finger's on the right key. That always helps. And we go to the next one. And THONY. RIZZO. In fact, you should see the one that we just created a minute ago right there, right? So we got Anthony Rizzo, and it's not going to take but a couple minutes for you to get like 50 players done. I mean, it should not take you very long. You can see, all right, Chris. Let's go to Chris. Whoop, went too far. There we go. His card's down here at the bottom. Boom. Then we go KRS, BRYNT, and same thing. And see, now this is why I'm talking about, oh, this is not a good location because now my things are, so that's why I normally put it all the way down in the bottom corner, and it'll pop up down here in the bottom corner for me, and it shouldn't cover any of my names anymore, right? So RGESOLER. If you're really good with player names and you know how to spell them, well, then you don't have to worry about that. But I'm not, so I always have to worry about that, right? Uh, Dexter Fowler. All right. And so literally in what, 2 minutes, I now have a whole page of Cleveland, our Chicago Cub batters. And I'm just going to minimize this now. If we go to our Chicago Cubs, you can see all the players we just put in there, right? All right, so this is where all the regular players go, and then of course the pitchers are going to go into the pitchers folder. So I'm just going to minimize this to get it out of the way. In fact, I'm going to close all these extra windows, so those are out of the way. And you would just go through. I don't, depending on, if you don't want to get every single player on the team, that's fine. But if you do, then you can do that as well. It doesn't take very long. Maybe a minute or two. TRERAS. Don't worry too much about, oh, I misspelled this or whatever, because we can always rename the files later. All right, and I'll just keep clicking, just like Dora, just keep clicking, SCZUR. See, now that's one I'm glad I didn't have covered up. Tommy is, oh, see, now I can't get this whole thing, right? So I just hit the X because I don't want that. I want to scroll down a little bit on my PDF. There we go. So now I can make sure I can get the whole thing in there. Tommy La, STELA. Boom. All right, you guys get the gist, right? GHLAN. You're just going to do that, blah, blah, blah. All right, so you get through your regular players, and, maybe you bring up a different file or whatever. You're going to make sure it's at 100%, and you're going to find your pictures, and you're going to do basically the same thing. But Light Shot is going to remember the last folder you were in, and you don't want to just save them into the regular folder, right? You want to save them into their special pictures folder. So that's what I go there, and I click on that. All right, Jon Lester, boom, done. Now he's in the pictures folder. Same thing with Jake Arrieta. Now it remembered, so I don't have to keep, going to this folder over and over again. That's one of the nice features about Light Shot, is it will remember which folder you were saving things in. And so now all I have to do is highlight and then hit save. The other option you can always do for yourself, if you're not familiar with whether or not they're lefty-righty for your pitchers, is you could actually put in front of each of the different pitchers whether they throw left-handed or right-handed. So you could put an R or an L in front of the name, right? And that way it would sort all your pitchers by all the lefties would be first, alphabetically, and then all your right-handers would be alphabetically. So if you're specifically looking for a left-hander, or if you're looking for a right-hander, you would have those already pre-sorted for you if you want to go through that extra step. And I'm actually, since we only did one so far, Jon Lester, we will actually rename him. We will do that for you so we can show you. So Jon Lester is an L, all right? And actually, cancel. Let's start again. All right, so we'll have to redo Jon Lester here in a second. So Jake Arrieta is a righty, so we're going to righty, and then Jake. You can actually do that with your batters as well. I don't mind going through the list quickly. It doesn't take that long. But if you want to kind of fine-tune your thing a little bit better, now let me just go in and make sure our pitchers, L, Jon Lester, R, Jake Arrieta. Okay, good. So that did save it. Good to know. All right, so again, we're in the pitchers. He's an R, and it's going to be Kyle Hendricks, and then of course we have John. Oh, nope. We want to put, he's a right-hander. John Lackey, right? And then zoom this up a little bit. There we go. And save that area. He's a right-hander. Jason Hamill. All right. And I'm just going to do a couple just, kind of so we can show you. And we got we got another right-hander, Trevorchill. There you go. I mean, the more organized you do it to begin with, the more organized and everything will be at the end, right? So that might help you out. All right, so you can see our pictures folders. So if I was starting, say, John Lackey, right? So he's the starter today. And we get through the fifth or sixth inning, and he's done, and I go, oh, I got to bring in a left-hander. You'll notice it's the way Windows sorts everything is by first letter, and then second letter, and then third letter, and then fourth letter. So it's going to sort everything by lefties and then by their name. So you'll have all your left-handers by name. So if you go, oh, I'm going to go find a left-hander, you can just start going, and you'll see the name of the file at the top. L, so he's a lefty. John Lester. Oh yeah, well, do we want to use this guy or somebody else? Or maybe John Lester started, now you want a right-hander. Again, you're going to go to your R's for right-hander, and there it is. And you can look and say, oh, there's Jake Arrieta. No, I don't want him. Jason Hamels. Again, it's all alphabetical in the right-handed section. It won't just be alphabetical. It'll be just alphabetical if you don't use the lefty-righty. So if you know, oh, I'm looking for, say, Kyle Hendricks, it's going to be, you're going to go to the K section, right? So we're J, K. Oh, there he is. So, if you don't put the lefty righties in front of hand. All right, so we've got our position players, we got our pitchers folders, we have our lineup folder, but nothing in it. So what I normally do at this point is I go, okay, I'm going to get my players for the starting lineup today, and it's going to be Montero, Ross, Fowler, Hayward, Rizzo, Baez, Zubris, Bryant, 2, 4, 6, 8, and Contreras. All right, so there's my 9 players. I've got them highlighted. The way I highlight them, all right, if you're not familiar, I'm just going to click off in the white area here. If you hold your control key down, whenever you click something, it'll highlight, and you're going to hold your control. You're going to just keep your finger on the control key, and every time you click on one, it's going to highlight it. All right, and so you can individually pick out your 9 players, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So we got our 9 players. Now I'm going to let go of the control key. They still stay highlighted. And all I'm going to do is right click on one of them, and I'm going to drag them. You can see it says the number 9 there. And I'm going to drag it into my lineups, and I'm going to let go of my right mouse button. And it's going to ask me, do I want to copy here, move here, create shortcuts here? So I want to copy them there. If I move them, then they're going to disappear from this folder. I don't want them to disappear. I want an extra copy in my lineup folder. And there we go. Boom. So we now got our lineup, right? So we bring up Anderson Russell, and he's batting first, and Anthony Rizzo's batting second, and Ben Subert. Oh, wait, no, that's probably not how it goes. Again, Windows is going to sort them by their name. So what you have to do is just basically go in and go, okay, batting first today is going to be, let's see who would be batting first. I don't know. Let's just say Baez. So what I'm going to do is just click on his name, right? And I'm going to put a 1 in front of it because he's going to be batting first. And look, it puts him number 1. And maybe Rizzo is batting second today. So again, I'm just going to click on his name and put a 2 in front of it. And maybe Jason Hayward's batting third. Click on his name, and he's batting third. And Miguel Montero, he's batting fourth. And you can see it's now sorting them by player name, right? So we got 4. We'll just put him as 5. I'll put David Ross as 6. Wilson Contreras. Wilson Contreras is going to be 7. And Addison Russell will be 8, and Chris Bryant will be 9. All right, so one of the weird things that actually happens is you will notice we had this window already open that is our lineups folder. As long as this window is never been closed, it's going to remember the information it had when it was opened. You can see that it's actually kept the original lineup the way it was. So we had Addison Russell first, Anthony Rizzo second, Ben Zobrist third, David Ross fourth, Hayward fifth, Xavier Baez, and stuff like that. So what we need to do is actually close out of that. And we need to bring open a new window. And we bring open a new window. Yeah, there we go. You're going to see up at the top, number 1, Baez. 2, Rizzo. 3, Hayward. 4, Miguel Montero. 5, Zobrist. And it'll actually have our lineup. So that's how you're going to set your lineup in there, right? So I'm going to have my lineup. And then I'm going to go to my back to my original folder, go to my pitchers folder, and we'll say Jake Arrieta starting the game. So I got my Jake Arrieta card up and ready to go, and I can just resize it, position it on my screen wherever I want. The Cubs will be batting first since they're in Cleveland, so put them up at the top, right? And then all I have to do is do the same thing with my Cleveland folder, which I've already done. Here's my pitchers, right? And maybe Cody, nope, it's going to be Corey Kluber starting, right? And I'm just going to slide that out of the way, and I go back to my folder, and I don't have my lineups in there yet, right? Because I was just messing around with this. So I would take, my players, we'll just give you an example, right? Let's put these in there. That's fine. Copy here. And then we're going to have, I don't know, we'll have Jason Kipnis batting first. And yes, these lineups are not going to be what you're normally going to see. I'm just kind of showing you how it's going to sort, how Windows sorts things. And so, we can't have another 2. We got to have a 3 there, right? All right. Because if we play, here's what will happen. If I place another 3 in here, right? It's going to think that these 2 are equal because they're both the 3, and then it's going to sort them by the next letter. So Coco Crisp is going to come in front of Yan Gomes. I don't want that, right? So I got to place it as 4. Besides, it'll be up at the top, and you'll know what position you're dealing with because you're going to see at the top 5 Ben Zobrist. So I know, the pitcher spot's coming up in a couple, or whatever. So then we got, we got Eric Gonzalez here. He is, what is he? He's 5. And of course, I would fill this completely out, but I don't want to waste your guys' time because you can kind of see what we're doing here, right? And 7, right? There we go. All right, so now I break up my lineup for Cleveland, and now I just position my windows. So we got, we have Jake Arrieta pitching against Cleveland. We have Corey Kluber pitching against Ben Zobrist again. You can kind of resize the windows. You can only get so small based upon how big the original image is. If you don't like them overlapping one another, I kind of actually do like them overlapping one another because that way I'm not accidentally reading the wrong card at the wrong time. And then, let's say Cleveland's going against Chicago first. I'm not going to look at these players because, these cards are on top. And then, I just click down here to put these cards on top. It only takes a second to do that. So Jake Arrieta is against. Now you can see the difference here because I actually saved my Cleveland ones at 125%. And the Chicago ones were saved at 100% zoom level. You remember how we were talking about the zoom level? And I specifically did the Cleveland ones differently so you can see. So you might want to make a couple test cards. The disadvantage is when you make them bigger, you can't kind of shrink them as much as you can. I guess you can, but you don't. What's the best way of putting this? When you make the card size the same, right? This one is going to look bigger because it was 125% as opposed to the 100%. So you might want to figure out what size you were going to keep your cards or your digital images is what I like to call it. Now I'm glad I did that because I want to show you guys. You can see the difference. The Cleveland ones, hopefully you can see, because they're 125, they're not as crisp and as clean a look as the 100 ones. You can see that Miguel Montero's card looks much more chiseled, fine quality. Uh, that's because you're seeing the image at bigger, about the size that it was meant to be at. Corey Kluber here, we'd have to make the card, a lot bigger just to get it to where it needs to be, which is right about there is about the 125% zoom level in there. So hopefully that explains why and why these cards look differently. The other thing is when you're clicking, to bring cards in front, you don't want to accidentally click the little arrow keys because it'll flip over to the next card. So you always want to, try and remember to kind of click in the middle of the cards to bring them, back and forth between one another. So hopefully that will help you a little bit. And I usually like to try to keep the cards at the same height and the same width and all that. But that's personal preference. Whatever you like is that's what you're going to do. So that's kind of how I set things up. You're going to be taking, there's some pre-setup, right? Because if you're doing Cleveland, you got to get all their player cards. You got to get, well, you don't have to get every single one. You might want to get the 15, 16 or so main players at least, and then maybe, a couple of the spares. And then for the pitchers, you want probably the 5 starters. You want, you know, the people that started a lot of your games, if they started 80 games or whatever. I think it actually shows on here. Yeah, so he was in 67 games. So maybe you want a bunch of them. If you're going to use historic lineups, you can always before you play your game, you can check and see which cards you got. And you go, oh, yeah, I don't have him. But you can save all that time, trouble, and effort if you just, in the beginning, you just say, you know what, I'm going to bite the bullet and I'm just going to, I'm going to save an image of all these guys. Let's just, there's 10 pages worth of guys here for Cleveland. And it takes you probably 2 or 3 minutes per page. So yeah, it's going to take you 20 or 25 minutes to make Cleveland, and it's going to take you 20 and 25 minutes to do Chicago. It's not really going to take you probably that long. And the more you do this, the faster you get, and the easier it gets. And I could do a page in this, what do we got here? You got 8 cards, right? I can do a page of 8 cards in probably a minute, right? So it's really going to take me 10 minutes, but I'm giving you extra time because you're new at this or whatever, and you're making electronic cards, and maybe you know how to spell their names better than I am, so maybe it won't only take you maybe 15 minutes, or maybe it'll only take you 10 minutes because you're really quick at typing or whatever. Uh, so yeah, if you bite the bullet and you go, okay, I'm just going to make an image of all of these cards. In fact, this page is only 2 players, so this one's only going to take you 20 seconds as opposed to 2 minutes to do. So might not even take you that long. And here's another page where you know um, these are going to be pitcher batter cards. So Geraldo Concepcion only was in 3 games. Yeah, I'm not going to do him. I'm not going to do him. He's only was in 5 games. If I need this card, I can always get it later, right? So uh, I'd get all the ones he had 35 games, 51 games, oh yeah, I need him, I need him, I need him. Maybe don't do any players that were like 10 or 15 innings or less, or, 30 bats at less, or whatever you want to do. It's up to you. I'm just giving you my advice. I would just bite the bullet, do the teams, and you're ready to go. So now I gotta, once I do that, I got a 7-game World Series with all my cards ready to go. All right, and I've got all my, I got all my Cleveland. I'm gonna have all my players in here, and then I can just, oh yeah, who's in the lineup, and I drag them into my lineup, and then I just have to just number them, boom, 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 and then do the same thing for the Cubs. 20. That's Cleveland again. I do the same thing for Chicago. Get my players. You see all these players, electronic cards that we made very quickly. Figure out who's in the lineup. Look at the baseball reference or make up your lineups however you normally do it. Uh, Highlight all your different players, drag them into the lineups, and then just go in and renumber them. And then you're ready to go. Pitchers, again, you can either put the lefty righties on them or not. That's up to you. I don't, but I have in the past done the lefty and righties. But for me, you're only going to have maybe 20 or 30 pitchers, which means yes, there's certain situations. I'm Jake Arrieta. Oh, I got to click 20 times to get to the player I need. Sure, I mean, that can be a pain, but um, you know, it is what it is. All right, so two other things. Let's say we are, obviously in the eighth inning, John Lester's got to be pulled, right? And then we have every pitcher that we need by just, clicking to do, or it was Jake Arrieta, I think, was starting, right? So Jake Arrieta is starting. He's now going to get pulled. We have all the pitchers, so we don't need to go back to our folder and go to our pitchers and go, oh, that's wrong team again. Let's bring in Trevor Cahill and bring up his card, right? We don't have to do that because we can always get to Trevor Cahill by just clicking over, boom, 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 boom. There he is, right? So we can just switch out pitchers and stuff like that. So pitcher switch are real easy. When you're talking about bringing in a batter, a pinch hitter, or somebody like that, what you want to do is you want to go to your folder again, right? And let's say that Tommy La Stella is going to take over for, let's see, Tommy La Stella is going to take over for Jason Hayward, right? So Jason Hayward's in the 3 spot, right? So what I could do is I could just drag him in here, right? Copy him in there. And then I can say, okay, Tommy La Stella, you're going to go in the number 3 spot, and we're ready to go, right? You would think that it would be that simple, but it's not. As I showed you, if I go back and forth in this, we will never see Tommy La Stella because this has got the memory of when it was opened. And we added this after it was open. So to actually get this, I have to close it and then re-bring it open, and now all of a sudden we'll have Tommy La Stella. So for all that extra work, what I'm trying to show you is kind of a time-saving feature for you guys. Is anytime you have a pitcher, a new player coming in, or whatever, I'm actually going to just delete him out of there. There we go. Close it out and bring it back up. Right. So we're now in the top of the 9th. Jason Hayward. I'm going to pull him, and we're going to bring in. It's a 3-3 bowl game, so I'm going to bring in. Go back into our players, and we're going to bring in Tom Stuff. So I would bring up his card, right? And then I would use him. And if he's going to stay in the game, if he's going to make it a replacement or whatever, I'm not going to replace him in the actual lineup. What I'm going to do is just keep his card available, kind of caddy corner a little bit, right? So I'm going to use the regular lineup, and I'm going to remember whenever I get to, oh, okay, now we're back to the top of the lineup, and it's Baez, and then Rizzo, and then, oh yeah, Hayward's not there. I've got his card. I just click on it, and then I got Tommy La Stella. So I just keep it open. If Tommy La Stella is just coming in to pinch hit for a pitcher spot, and then is out of the game, then, you don't need to keep his window open. What I'm trying to say is you can have multiple windows open that can kind of help you do things, kind of quickly, easy. Of course, you can minimize it, right? And then if you need them, you can just, where is he? He's down here somewhere. Is it this one? No, that's Trevor Cahill. It might be this one, because sometimes it can give it a little confusing when you got 30 of them down here to look at. This just says photos. This is photos. Oh, there he is. There he is. So, yeah. So if you wanted to minimize them, you can. If you have a second computer screen, which I do, I just sometimes I just drag them off to the side, whatever, So that's kind of some tips and tricks on how to manage. Again, click in the middle. All right, we go, boom, boom, boom. We're in the bottom of the first now. Click down here, boom, boom, boom. Okay, we're back to the top of the first. We boom, boom, boom. Of course, you're, moving through your lineup as you're going. Obviously, when you get to the number 9 hitter, right, you can't click again to go to number 1. So you have to, kind of go back to number 1, right, and start again. Um, and as far as software goes, I use a program called Rock and Roll. There's plenty of different dice rollers out there. I like this one because um, you can turn the sound off, which is very annoying, right? And then I can go in and I can say, I want everything cleared out. Yes, so it's going to get rid of all the dice. And then I can add in the dice that I want and the colors that I want. So I can say, I'm going to add in a 1d6, and I'm going to add it, and I want it to be red. And I'm going to add a 1d6, and I'm going to add it in a white. And I'm going to add a 1d10, and then it's going to be black. And I'm going to add a 1d10, and it's going to be blue. And I can have up to 10 different dice in here, it looks like. And maybe I have a 1d20, right? And it's going to be, I don't know, this color. And a 1d20, and it's going to be pink. There you go. And then I can just close this out. There's all my different dice, and I could just click. I could just keep hitting reroll, and it just bounces them around until I finally stop, and then it just bounces them around, and then it'll actually show you, you know, the first 6-sider is a 6, right? And the second 6-sider was a 4. And then the 6 is the black 10-sider. And the 10 is a blue 10-sider. And the 2 is the multicolored 20. And the 5 is the pink 20. So it kind of shows you up here. So up there at the top of what they are. And of course, I could just re-roll, boom, 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 and I'm ready to go. And they'll bounce around, and they'll have a good time in there. Sometimes they'll get stuck in the corner a little bit, and it'll take them a minute to bounce around and flatten themselves out before they'll actually pop up in there. But like you said, there's different dice rollers out there. One of the things I don't like about this is you can't actually resize the window. This is going to be the size of the window, so I can't really put this, I can't quite squeeze that in. I'd have to make these cards smaller to try and get this squeezed in underneath it. Maybe I don't want the cards that small, so now I got to keep this to the side. So yeah, I mean, you would look for dice rollers out there. Maybe you can find a version that might work good for you. I like this one. I don't mind having it to the side, and I like the fact that I can, bounce and see the dice. Really cool. I can actually go into the options here, and we can actually change the background if that matters. If you wanted something more, it's meant for like a role playing dice system, so you'll see a lot of role playing ones. But maybe you'll see something you like. Oh, that's kind of cool. It's like a little sci-fi world looking thing. I don't think there's a way to add your own bitmaps in there, but there might be. There might be. Yeah, that's fine. I just like something kind of neutral in the background. It's not too distracting, and that way I can kind of see the dice a little bit better. And there we go. And boom, 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 and I'm done rolling, and now they're bouncing around, and there we go. So it's a 5 when I add the two dice together. It's a 0, 1 in percentile, and then it's a 13 and a 17 on the 20s, right? So yeah, I like that. If I screw up, I can always say clear all the dice, and I can add them back in again. Add 1d. I don't think it'll add like a weird dice. Like if I go 1d38, I'm not sure if it'll actually do that or not. Let's see if it'll do a 1d38. No, see, it won't do that. So it has to be it has to be like a real number, like a 1d. I don't think it'll even do 100, right? Oh, it does. Yeah, it does. It actually does the 100 as a 00. So if I add another dice and I go 1d10, right? And I go, yes, I want that. So now I've got my percentile dice roll by just clicking on this, and it'll be a 26. There you go. You can't actually see it, but it's rolled a 20. There you go. The other thing I do like is, the fact that I can drag the dice out, in case they get caught behind one of the little windows or whatever. So it's called Rock and Roll. It's a free one as well. But like I said, there's lots of different dice rollers. You might find one that might suit you a little better. I wish I could resize this, but I can't. So that's a 07. Boom. Moving on. 0-0. Woohoo! Look at that. Rolled a 0-0. All right. So that's a tutorial of how I set things up. We're making electronic baseball cards, so that's super cool, right? Because now I got a electronic um, baseball card of Coco Crisp for what is this? Uh, what's the name of this damn thing? This game here, Fall Classic. Couldn't remember the name. So I've got an electronic copy of all these different players for Fall Classic, and I can keep these. I can, burn them on a disc. I can keep them on a jump drive, whatever, and I can have those for a long, 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 long time, right? And anytime I wanted to play these cards or these players, I could just put them on my computer and just load them up, and I could set up my own games, or I can replay the 2016 Cleveland Indians or what whatever teams. Obviously, again, there's some pre-work to set everything up because if you got 30 teams and you're going to be doing it for probably about 30 to 40 players per team, maybe 15 or 20 position players and about 15 or 20 pitchers. It's going to take you a little bit of pre-work to get that all set up. But once you get it set up, I mean, you're ready to go. I've got Cleveland, I've got Chicago pretty much done. I'm not actually using these folders. These are like just to show you folders. These are the folders I was using from our game last night. Uh, there you go. I hope this helps you out, guys. I know it's been a little bit longer than I wanted to, but there is a lot of stuff to actually talk about to kind of help you guys not have to go through a lot of the growing pains that I went through. What's the best way to set this up? You certainly just don't want a folder with all the players' names in here because then you're going to have to flip back and forth. Create a lineup folder, create a pitchers folder, put your pitchers in there, put all your position players in your main folder, and then in your you can drag in your position players for the lineup, and then go in your lineups and just like I said, just rename them. Put the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 1 through 9, and you'll be ready to go with your lineups. And then once your lineups are done, if they change, let's say the lineup, this is the lineup, right? But then the next day, instead of it was the same lineup, but instead Coco Crisp was batting third, right? So all I have to do is just say, okay, well, Coco Crisp was batting third, so I'm going to put him in the third spot, right? And Young Gomes was batting seventh, so then all I have to do is, change out 7, right? And then Eric Gonzalez was not playing, so I just delete him out of the lineup. And maybe instead of it was Jason Kipnis, right? Was maybe started that day, so I just I just drag him in there. There's Jason Kipnis, and maybe he was in the fourth spot, right? So I can just go in, click on his name, put him as number 4, and then Michael Brantley moved in the 5 spot. So I mean, it doesn't take but a couple minutes to adjust your lineups from game to game pretty quickly. It's not, you're delete the players that you don't need, or you can just start over fresh, right? You can just say, okay, you know what? Boom, gone, right? I'm going to go back in. I'm going to find my players. Okay, he started, he started, he started, he started, he started, he started. And then right click, drag them over, copy them in there, and then all you have to do is go, okay, Michael Brantley was first, right? And so I'm going to put a 1, and then it was Coco Crisp. We added second, and I just go in and add a 2. Whichever way you find the easiest. I kind of like this because I'm just like, unless the lineups don't change very often, like Atlanta Braves from 2018 season, they had kind of like one main lineup that they used, and then they had like an offshoot that they used about every fourth or fifth game when Kurt Suzuki didn't play. They kind of moved a couple players around. And that was like the first 20 games of the season, like 15 of them were almost the exact same lineup. So if that's the case, right, you could actually create another folder. We'll call it lineup default. Oh, right? And you could put in your like default lineup in there, right? Okay, boom, 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 boom. Right click, drag, copy them in there. You could have, put your position players, rename them, get them all lined up. And then if they don't use the default lineup, you could just create, your different lineups. So you can actually, have multiple folders with multiple different lineups. Maybe you could, instead of rename this, you can just call this lineup, and then you just, name it whoever it was. So it's going to be, we'll call this, the lineup is going to be Coco, and then Eric, and Jason, and Jose, and Michael, and Mike, and Jan. Or, you could call your lineup that. So that way okay, this lineup is with all these players. And this lineup might be, we'll just rename this. We're going to call this lineup. This one's going to be called Jan, and then Coco, and then Jason, and then Jose, and then Eric, and then Mike, and then Michael. Right? So now I've got two different lineups all ready to go. Because, the teams are not going to use that many different lineups here and there. So, if I get to a day and I'm going to replay the Cleveland Indians from 2016, and maybe it has the same lineup as this, but maybe there's one player different, I would go, oh, okay, well, that's easy to fix. I'm just going to use this lineup, and instead of so and so, we got a new player in the lineup today, which happens to be, well, let's go to our sheets here. Where's our sheets? Here they are. I go to Cleveland, right? And I say, Marlon Byrd is in the lineup today instead, right? So I've got Marlon Byrd. I've already have him, but I don't. So, and we're going to go to desktop. We're going to go to Cleveland, and we're going to rename him to Marlon Byrd. All right. All right, so we've got let's just minimize this. So we got this default lineup as, oh yeah, you know what? This is the same lineup except for today. Oh, what happened? Why is our did I put him in the other Cleveland folder? No. Where did those players? Did I say I didn't save them in Chicago? Did I? No, I didn't actually. Where did these players get saved? Let's minimize this out of the way. Now I'm confused. Who did we just add in? We just added somebody in. I didn't add them in there. Where the heck where did I save them? I can always go back in and find the file here. So if I go and save, where is it saving to? Oh yeah, it is. It's saving it in Chicago. It's because I'm an idiot. No wonder. Make sure you're saving them in the right place, right? So that's what the problem was there. So we want to actually save this guy in the right folder now. So we want to go to desktop. We want to find our Cleveland, and we want our position players in our Cleveland folder. We got our pitchers in our pitcher folder, right? So this is going to be Brandon Guyer, right? And then Marlon Byrd. Now, like you said, cool thing about LightShot is once you save it somewhere, it's going to remember that. So that's why it's super cool to do, like all your position players, get them all done at the same time because it'll just remember that folder. You won't have to worry about, trying to find the right folder or everything. Just get all your position players done and then do all your pictures. And easy, right? And there we go. So now if I go back into my folder, there they are. So yeah, what I was saying is, okay, we got this lineup here. It's Jan, Coco, Jason, Jose, Eric, Mike, and Michael. But instead of Mike Napoli, it's going to be Jose Ramirez today. So all I have to do is drag the Jose in there, right? Copy here. Oh wait, nope, 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 nope. We can't use Jose. Where is the player we just did? All right, let's close this out. It's driving me crazy. Oh, here he is, Marlon Bird. All right, so dragging Marlon Bird in there. Yes, I've got myself confused at this point. Copy him in there, and of course, Marlon Bird is going to be starting for Coco Crisp, so I could just delete Coco Crisp out of there, and then I'm just going to rename Marlon Bird because he takes it over. Boom. So yeah, you can have multiple lineup cards in there, and you'll see a lot of them will be pretty familiar or pretty samey. Um, and then you can have one just called default or whatever you want to do if you want to fine tune things and make it easier for yourself. If you're only going to do like a 7 game series or just a couple games, it might not be worth going through all that extra effort. But you decide for yourself what you think it might be a good idea. So, anyways, hope this helps. If it does, let me know in the comments section below. And we'll see everyone next time. But keep rolling, guys. Keep rolling and having a good time while you're doing it. Any other questions, let me know. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.